Hello everyone. In today's lecture of Introduction to Software Engineering with UML, we are going to discuss our second unit, which is Introduction to Requirement Analysis and Specification and UML. We are going to discuss the very first point of our second unit. The title itself is suggesting that now that we have studied all the process models, the traditional ones and the modern ones, we have got a clear picture about how exactly software development occurs in companies and in practical. So now we will be discussing in our this paper step by step or phases by phases how development gets involved in detail. So the very first point in our second unit is requirement anticipation and investigation, and the very next point, which is completely dependent on the previous one, is fact finding techniques. So points we are going to discuss in today's lecture in this lecture are going to be requirement anticipation and investigation, and the second point, fact finding technique. Under fact finding technique we will be elaborating it with what exactly facts are, and will study in detail what different fact finding techniques are. So, the very first point which we are going to discuss is system planning and investigation. So, why are we again referring back to system planning and investigation? If you have closely observed and compared the traditional and the modern models of software development, you might have quickly caught your eye on the phases. And the first phase, the very first phase in every model, that be traditional, that be modern, the first phase has always remained the phase of planning, preparing, the phase of feasibility, and the phase of requirements gathering. Even if we speak about SDLC, system development life cycle, the first phase was planning. We discussed agile. The first phase was again of planning, and if you go towards the traditional ones, the first phase was always planning and requirement gathering. So now we are going to bifurcate this phase and study it in detail, that how exactly we can plan and investigate. Investigation is a big word, and we will cut it down to short and then study what exactly it means and how we can apply it in our software development. So, the first thing which we are going to go through is system planning and investigation. Here, we are going to determine the system requirements by in detail studying the system. We are going to study the system in detail. We are going to collect details about system in the form of requirement. Now, do mark and do observe that we are using the word in detail. We are going to go into details now. We have gone through what models are and how the phases are. We are going to discuss the first two phases in detail. So now you have to go and study the system you are going to work on. The second thing which you need to do is collect details about the system in the form of requirement. Now, we go on vague and collect a lot of information. Say, for example, you are planning and preparing for a billing system for a maybe garment shop or maybe a cloth shop. You don't need to go into the history of the shop, like who was the founder, who developed the maybe the shop, who established it. Maybe that information can be vital or useful for a website, but if you are designing a billing system, these are the least important things, and you should concentrate or go towards those things at the last. It is not that vital. So think about requirement. For a billing system, the most important thing is a bill. You're working on a bill. So what are the requirements needed for a bill? If you're saying bill, the first thing which should come in your mind is a bill format. So what format is suggested? Are you going to display the taxes which you are taking from your customer. Are you going to display each and every detail, like the discount given and every single thing? So you need to think in that manner. So think about it. If you are saying about a bill and a tax, and then if you have to calculate it, that becomes a requirement. So you need to think, you need to analyze things, and now approach it towards not going vague and collecting all sort of information, but going towards it, taking requirement, analyzing it and applying it as a requirement. The next thing which you should do it, discover new requirement. When we say a billing system, we know already that it is supposed to generate a bill. It is definitely going to accept product, it is definitely going to accept customers information, and it is going to generate bill. But you need to discover new requirement which are going to be discipline specific, or you can say which is going to be specific towards the customer, the type of customer you are approaching, and what their requirements are. You need to focus on them. So discover the new requirement and check whether they are valid or not. And now, under this phase of planning and investigation, you need to perform two simple activities. And the first activity is requirement anticipation, and the second is requirement investigation. Let us go through what this requirement anticipation activity is. So, yes, this is the first activity which we are going to perform in the planning phase. It is the activity of requirements anticipation, or you can say requirements production. So, there are two pictures in front of you. I would like to tell you that pause this video right here and analyze both the images and think why, what are these pictures relating to. So if you ask me, the first picture, in the first picture the person is quite excited about something. He is quite excited, he is hoping, maybe like you people do hope about your exams result. You are awaiting your results and you are expecting something positive and good. So he is expecting something maybe, and he's excited. I can figure out that he's excited and he's expecting something. The second person is kind of maybe observing something. He is anticipating in a way, maybe he is predicting something. So the two words or two three words which comes in my mind looking at these pictures could be, the first is he is excited, and the second person is predicting. So let us see what exactly this word anticipation means. Anticipation means either expecting, or you're predicting, or you are excited about something, and you're doing this thing in advance. When you say or utter the word anticipating, it means in advance. You're preparing yourself in advance for something. So you're expecting or you're predicting in advance. Let us see what it means in detail. So you are going to anticipate requirements now. You are going to expect requirements in advance. You are going to predict them, and then you will approach your client and then go in vague, which we will study very soon. So the first activity of requirement anticipation or requirement production can be done by experienced system analyst, or you can say is always performed by system analyst. Now who is this system analyst? The word itself is suggesting he is the analyst. He is going to analyze everything, and definitely this person has to be the most experienced one, the most senior person of your team, and the most, reliable, and the one who could interpret things and imagine. That person is the best person for the role of system analyst. So somebody who is having a experience, a good experience of working in team, working with customer, and is having a good sense of analysis. He needs to be analyzed, he needs to be analyzing things. He is the one who is going to come back and explain the team about what requirements we are going to focus on. And the second thing which you should remember is prepare for requirements, collect requirements in advance. You are, I'm again repeating, not approaching your customer directly. You are preparing yourself. So the phase of planning and investigation and the activities of anticipation and investigation are preparing these are, you're still in your company, you haven't approached your client, you're preparing yourself, and now you will be approaching your client after performing this phase. I'll tell you when exactly the client or customer's role will come, but right now you are just preparing yourself to work on this very project. So, one question which comes in our mind when we are saying anticipating, that you have to predict. Again, I'll go through the picture and the definition. They are saying that you need to anticipate requirements now in the form like you're going to expect it and you're going to predict it in advance, that too. So, expecting and predicting, the question which comes in my mind, which is a very big question and which might come in your mind as well, is yes, what to expect. This is a very big question with a very big answer, but once you get answer to this question, half of your problems will be solved. When you understand that we need to expect these things, that moment you cut down the unnecessary things. You can apply the same in your real life. If you understand what to expect and from whom to expect, half of our problems get solved, and the same thing gets applied to our software development. The moment you understand that I need to expect these 10, 20 things only, you cut down the unnecessary things. So, this is something which will come with practice and, of course, experience. And for that reason only, we don't want to go on and work and waste our time on unnecessary things and unnecessary requirement. This is the vital reason or main reason why we are expecting an experienced person who is good in analysis, so that he can analyze things and find out the expected requirements only. So the second activity which we are going to perform is requirement investigation. Now, if you see the picture and if you see the word investigation, this is a broad and a very big term. You are going to investigate. We could have used requirement searching, or you can say finding requirement, but rather than using those terms, they have used the term investigation, which is in a way a very heavy kind of a term. When you say you're going to investigate something, the things which comes with it are, you have to be systematic, you have to be proper, you have to be very prominent in your work, you have to be impromptu, you have to think about it in a very systematic manner. It is not a simple finding or something, it is investigating, so it is a systematic kind of a thing. So, requirement investigation is something that you're going to examine anything in detail, you're going to study it in detail, you are going to inquire, you have to inquire. Inquiring is asking, inquiring is asking someone in a systematic manner. There has to be a format, there has to be a system, and you need to document each and everything. Like police investigation, say for example, or detectives carry out some investigation and they collect some proof. So here you're going to collect requirement as your proof, and these things are going to be timely. That means in a course of time you will be doing this, you will be taking their feedback and their consent, that we have discussed this thing, you will be documenting it, you will be preserving everything. So it is a broad kind of a term, investigation, and everything has to be in systematic manner for sure. The second thing is find features in system. In anticipation, we discussed that we are going to collect information in the form of requirement. Now you need to collect information, or you can say turn those requirements in features. Now, what are feature? Again, let us take the example of our bill. You can say that if your cloth shop is offering return policy, it is a local shop where you can go and buy your clothes, the clothes you like, but they are offering a return policy of maybe 4 days or 5 days. This is a feature which you should add. So this is not common. Usually things like cloth, if sold out, rarely they exchange it, or maybe it is on their tie-ups or whatever. But if the person is telling you that yes, we have got a speciality of our shop, that we have a return policy, being a local shop, we are offering a return policy, so this becomes a feature. You need to add it in your billing system. And how can that be? You need to edit your records. If somebody has purchased a product, he has taken it back and he is giving it back, so the product has again came inside your system, so it is going to revert, or you can say it is going to return. So that becomes a feature which you should add in your system. Next thing is follow some fact finding techniques, or you can say some strategies and methods to collect information. This is very, very important. Now we will be approaching towards what exactly these fact finding techniques are. And before we start with the fact finding techniques, there are some small activities which you can perform. The first activity in requirement investigation is asking. Now comes your customer. Now you have an interaction with your customer. Otherwise, anticipating phase is preparing phase. You are just preparing yourself, like for exams you do, or you can say maybe for going for some uh, activity, you prepare yourself. So anticipation is preparing yourself, and investigation, now you're getting into it along with your customer. So the small activity which you can perform in this very phase is asking. You're investigating, so you need to ask questions which is very obvious. So the first part you can say is questioning. And under questioning there are two types: one is open ended and the other is close ended. As the name is suggesting, open ended questions allow respondents to formulate answers. So you can listen to what they are saying, or you can take it in writing. Let them write, let them explain you in their own way. The second thing is close ended. In close ended, the respondent is supposed to select a response from the set of answers. The best example for close ended is MCQ type questions, where you have two three options and you select one. And in open ended, our theory paper, you have a question and you write down your answer. So this is the best example which you can think of. Open ended questions are question and answer, which theory exam you give, and close ended ones are the MCQs, the objective type question paper or answer you attempt. The second activity is brainstorming. It is quite a popular one. Some use, some don't use. In brainstorming, you need to ask every participant to define their ideal solution and then select the best one. You can ask the participant to go down and write two, three answers and then ask him which is the best one. So mostly questioning is used uh, in contrast to brainstorming. Now let us go through what exactly or which different fact finding techniques are. But before approaching to techniques directly, let us first discuss what facts are. This is a very common term and you all might be using this in your day to day life. Fact is fact. Fact is a fact. Let us see what exactly this fact is. When you say the word fact, things which come in our mind are that it is a thing that is known. Okay, it is known, or it is proven, or it has to be true. When we say this is a fact, this is a fact, that means we are imposing, or we are focusing on, or we are kind of concentrating on truth. This is a real thing. So when you say real, The term immediately comes is real fact. So the second thing, what exactly fact is? It is an information. It can be used as an evidence. We use the word investigation, and yes, even in our software industry and software development, we need to preserve everything as a proof. So later, if you have some disputes, if you have some differences with your customer or client, you can produce those documents that yes, this is where we decided to be, this is what we decided as a requirement, and we have added it. So it is definitely going to work as an evidence or as a part of a report. It is mostly used for verifiability. So fact, you're collecting fact. See the terms, how the terms have changed. In anticipation, we focused on requirement. In investigation, we went to features. And now in the fact kind of point, we are going for verifiability. So this is verifiability. And the next is data collection. You're going to collect data, preserve it, verify it, and use it as a fact. And the last is very, very important. Last but not the least, your system analyst. Again, this is the very important kind of a role, important kind of a part of our development, or you can say the most important part, because the rest phases are completely going to depend on this first phase. This is the phase which we should be performing very keenly, very importantly, without making any sorts of mistake, because they are definitely going to reflect in the design, they are definitely going to reflect in coding. So if you perform this phase incorrectly, it is definitely going to affect. So we are going to approach the most senior member, the most responsible one, the one who is having the power of analyzing things in the correct manner. So when you're saying fact finding, these are the things which you should remember. So let us see what different fact finding techniques are. So, the first technique which we are going to follow and is the best technique to be followed and is used uh, very widely in industry is interview, the technique of interview. We are going to query information. We are going to ask for information. And for doing this, you can't just go and visit your client or customer and just sit in front of him and, yes, I'm here to collect information. No, you need to follow some systematic strategies, some techniques, because this development, we had discussed 2 3 factors in the part of system development life cycle, which was resources, time, and money. So where money and time and resources are involved, you have to be strategy, you need to follow some strategy, you have to adopt some strategy, adapt to some things, and then work it out. So you are going to follow some techniques, and the very first technique is the technique of interview. The second technique is the technique of preparing and working on questionnaires. These are not questions, but it is questionnaires. The third technique is the technique of record review. And the last technique which we are going to study is the technique of on-site observation or observation technique. So let us go through the first fact finding technique, which is the technique of interview. Now, again, take a pause, take a break, recall what we are discussing. We are discussing requirement anticipation, requirement investigation, and why are we doing all these things? Because we need to collect some requirements which are going to help you to understand and then build a software. So this is the first phase of software development, and we are thinking about a technique of interview. The first thing which might be coming in your mind when I'm saying the word interview might be the news channels, like yeah, the news channels. But those kind of interviews are the last thing which we will be doing, because those interviews are something where the host or the interviewee is kind of not getting the righteous chance to express himself. There are some systematic interviews as well, but we are definitely not going to have an interview like there are some interviews in medias or maybe news channels. This interview is going to be a slight different kind of interview and a systematic one for sure. The second thing which might be coming in your mind is the interview which we go for when we are expecting a job interview. Again, that is the last thing which you will be applying as a technique in requirement gathering for software development. So these interview is a broad kind of a term again, and is having many types, many different types. So we are going to adapt two types of interview which best suits in requirement gathering. And the first type is something like this. Yes, this is a systematic kind of interview. You can see both people are having some pages, or you can say some documents in front of them. She is kind of writing down something, and he might be kind of narrating something. He is answering to some questions. Let us see what exactly this picture is depicting. So the person on my right is the interviewer. So interviewer is someone who is going to conduct the interview, and the person on my left is the interviewee. So interviewee is someone who is getting interviewed, and interviewer is someone who is going to conduct the interview. She is going to ask questions, and he is going to definitely answer them. So how does this approach, so what kind of this approach is, we will definitely see. But under fact finding technique, when we discuss or when we say interview, this is something which, this is the picture which should come in your mind, and not this one. This is like the media interviews which we often see on television. We are expecting this kind of interview where we are having one interviewer, the other is interviewee. Interviewer is going to ask questions, and interviewee is going to answer them. So this is the process of our interview which we are going to adapt as a technique for the process of requirement gathering. First thing is, plan the interview in advance, as it is going to be face to face. It is going to be a face to face kind of interview, so you need to plan. So here when we are saying face to face, your client has to be available. Your client has to be available there, so you need to consult them, ask for their time, the suitable time for them, whichever suitable time for them, suitable place for them, and then plan the interview and get set ready and just go for it. The next thing is, establish reports and put interviewee at ease. Interviewee is someone who is going to answer. So make sure that you don't burden him with a lot of questions, cross questioning, and lot of maybe chaotic things, so that he gets jumbled that what should I answer. Make sure that you ask some simple questions, and the one which are going to be valuable for us, and which are going to give us uh, requirements in return. Frame all possible questions clearly in advance. Don't go visit your client, take their time, as they are going to be somebody, they can be somebody who are very busy, and sparing 5 minutes of their day can be a big deal. So if somebody is giving you his 5 minute, that means a lot. You need to utilize them. And in software development, as there is one phase allotted, you can't say that throughout the development I'll visit my client, ask some question, get some answers. No, that is not the thing. That is not the right way of development. So when you're getting 5 minutes, you need to utilize them. Make sure that you ask the right valuable questions which are going to in turn become feature of your software. Next, be a very good listener. Very, very, very important. One should be a very good listener if he needs to be a developer or he needs to be a better person. You need to be a good listener. Always try to avoid arguments when it comes to your client. Don't sit, go and argue on things, but think on them. Next is evaluate the outcome of interview. This has to be vague. This has to be very quick. You need to evaluate, you need to analyze it very quickly, that the 10 questions which I'm asking, the 10 answers which I'm getting, are they giving me some 4 5 new questions to ask? So you need to be very quick, you need to be very imaginative. Here is where you grab that technique and understand it very correctly. If I have asked some 5 questions, I have got some 5 questions, I have asked them, but these 5 questions are giving rise to 10 new questions. Grab it, ask those 10 new questions, and make sure you get the right answers. Next is cross check their responses. Yes, confirm when they are answering, confirm whether, are you sure you want to add this thing in your system? Are you sure you need to remove this thing from your system? So always cross check their responses. And the last but not the least, and the very important, clear their doubts, because the person can be somebody who is unknown to what software exactly is, how I'm paying for this, and how yieldful is it going to be for me. So clear their doubts. This is a right place where question answering is going on, so go for it. The second point which we are going to study under the first technique of interview is type of interview. So the picture in front of you is very clear. The first is structured interview and the other is unstructured interview. The name itself is suggesting everything. The picture is giving you a clear idea that here there is a fixed format of something. I can see a systematic diagram, there is a format, there is something systematic. Here you can say everything is connected. Things, some things are connected, some things are not connected. So let us see what exactly these two types are. The first type is structured interview, which is going to have fixed type of questions, which is going to have specific areas which will be covered. Now, when you're attempting for an interview, you are taking a visit at your client, and you are adopting the technique of interview, and you are approaching the first type, which is structured interview. You need to frame your questions before. You're going to pick some area. Maybe if it is a billing system, today I am taking a 10 to 15 minutes meeting and I am going to discuss taxes. If I'm going to discuss taxes, I am going to discuss questions related to taxes only, and I will be doing this in advance. The second is such kind of interviews which are structured, which are fixed, which are going to cover only a specific area and not jumping from that area to something different. If you are approaching your client to discuss about taxes, don't ask them about product and how you are maintaining relationship with customers. Are you offering some timely offers, some discounts? No. Now today we have taken a visit. We are taking a visit for discussing tax, and make sure you stick to that point. So that these kind of interviews are going to be very short. You're going to go visit, ask your fixed 10 20 questions, whatever they are, and come back. Lot of study and preparation is required. This is going to be in advance, so you need to be prepared. You need to be very very prepared, because it is going to be a short interview. It is going to cover a specific area and some questions only, and cost of preparation here is high. So you need to prepare a lot. You need to investigate things and then go for, and then approach structured interview. The second type is rightful and is simple, and I would recommend is unstructured interviews. Here you can go on, visit your client with some questions. Don't go blankly and sit in front of them and then waste your and their time. You can visit them with some 10 20 15 question and ask any type of question related to system. You want to ask question about taxes, go for it. You are thinking about products, that last time I have studied the list of your product and I'm thinking about adding a module of this thing, and then you can ask the question. At the same time, while discussing product, you thought I should ask about customers as well, I should ask about regular customers as well. Go on. This interview is definitely going to be a long interview and is going to cover as many areas as you want. There is no limit over this interview period. So, this interview needs to be systematically organized, because this is going to take a lot of your as well as your client's time. The next is questions depending on previous questions can be answered and can be asked. This is very important and very, very useful, I can say. Like I told you, that if I had decided to ask some 5 questions and it is giving rise to some 10 new questions, go and ask for it. Make sure you clear your as well as their doubts. Cost is comparative low. Definitely it is going to be low, because you're not taking a lot of time in preparing and planning in advance and then going and asking 5 questions, but you are carrying 5 questions and asking 10 new questions. So it is the cost is comparative low. So this was the first technique of interview. The second technique is questionnaire, which goes hand in hand. That means you can club or you can mix both these techniques of uh, fact finding, which is interview and questionnaire, together, but people follow them separately as well. Very simple. The picture here is saying everything about questionnaire. You can see a set of questions maybe in front of a person. He has picked some answers. He has blocked them as right, and he has also blocked them as wrong. So you can see that he has answered something. Now let us see how exactly this questionnaire. The term is not question, it is questionnaire, and that means a question bank. Questionnaire means a question bank. So here you are going to distribute the questionnaire among the end users. Now there can be a system which is not going to be used by a single person, but a group of 10-15 person. Say for example, billing system from any mart or mall, where the same billing system is having a shopping mall, you can say, or a food mall, you can say, where 3 or 4 counters of billing are placed, and every counter is going to have the same software. So here people using the software are many. So going and asking one single person and getting requirements is difficult, or you can say wrong. Here you need to ask each and every person who is going to use that system, if it is possible. And if it is not possible, go for questionnaires, where you can prepare a question bank, and you can see the person here is distributing those question banks among these people, and then he will get the answer and analyze them and tally them. So this kind of thing you might have followed, or you might have seen in malls or anywhere where surveys are taken. People coming to you and taking a survey have a page, or you can say pamphlet, of questions, and they have a place to answer. So this kind of thing, or where you can say people take your feedback. So if feedback is involved or if survey is involved, people go for questionnaire. Let us see how it works. So designing a questionnaire is again very creative and very crucial and important kind of a thing, because this is the only source from where you're getting information now. Once you frame your question and you distribute them, you're going to get fixed answers. You're not going to again communicate and take a new feedback. So it need to have, firstly, questionnaire can be designed. And if, say for example, your client is sitting some in a remote place, or is from some other city or something, you can email your questionnaire to them. If it is possible, you can uh, email them, you can send it by post as well, and the questionnaire is returned back after filling the answers, it is returned back to you, and they can remail you, or they can repost it to you by post or something. So for this, there should be a fixed format. There is a technique and there is a format involved. The first thing is, you should add a covering letter which should highlight the purpose of study. What specific area you have kept in your mind while designing the questionnaire, you need to write a covering letter highlighting that thing. So it has to be systematic. You should explain them what our questionnaire is. The maybe first 5 questions are about this area, next 10-20 questions are about that area, because it is going to involve time, and they can be new to this technique as well. So studying and writing, they can also take it very lightly sometimes. We are going to depend on this questionnaire because we are going to yield, or we are going to get requirement. And what if the person who is answering takes it very lightly and doesn't answer it properly? This is going to create a problem for us. So we need to add a covering letter which is going to highlight the purpose of study. Second thing is, you need to add minimum number of questions. If you're putting up some 100 questions in front of someone, he's definitely going to neglect the 90 questions from them, and then he will answer the 10 correctly, which can be randomly any question. So keep in mind, if you're designing, framing a questionnaire, keep questions to the minimum. Second is cross check and footnotes. So cross checking is, you need to do this once the questionnaire comes back. You will send the questionnaire by mail or by post. They will answer it and return it back to you. Then you will be sitting and analyzing and cross checking every answer. And footnotes are something which are like tips, or you can say point to be noted. We write the note, like important note, which is associated at the end of your paper, where we add the footer, the last end of your paper. uh, there you need to add some footnotes. Maybe some questions are complicated and the person may be get the person might get confused. So to remove that confusion, you can add some points which might give you information about the question. The last can be the questionnaire can be open ended or it can be close ended, which we just checked right now. Open ended are something where you will write a question, keep a space. Let us see the previous slide. Yes, here these are close-ended question. He is just going to mark them. You are giving 3 options, and he is going to just check mark them. The open-ended can be, you can write a question here and provide a space below it or front in front of it where he can write, where the person can write down. So these are the types of questionnaire which is open ended or close ended. The next technique is record review. This is the recommended one. We are discussing fact finding technique, but that doesn't mean that you can adapt only one technique. You can follow every technique in the development of your software, and this record review is a must. This is the most important one, because this is going to give you the format of report, how the company or how the client are organizing their data. Now, in the current world and today's world, data is the most valuable thing. And if you are thinking of preparing a database management system, data is something which is the important thing to be managed. For that, you should go on and study how the client is currently organizing their data. If they are having files and folders, you need to go through them. You need to see how they have lined it up. Is it from timely manner? Is it from dately manner? They are organizing it on the basis of month, week, day, what is going on. You need to go through these files and folders. If they are already having a system, or if they are using devices like computers or maybe tablets or something, you need to go through how they are organizing it. They have made 10-20 folders of it, or they have maintained some 3-5 folders with date, and then again some files inside. So you need to see the file structure, or you can say the record structure, how they are rightly or presently in current state, how they are preserving their record. So here record review is a phase which provides very valuable information about system. It can be performed in the beginning of the study if you are preparing after anticipation, when you are approaching to investigation, and you are taking a first visit. Go and ask for their bill book. You can see the structure, how the structure of their bill is, because the system or people working in the organization and your client somewhere or the other have become used to in looking formats in that manner. Here you can't impose your designs or your formats, this is the format which we follow. No, you need to follow their format. So go through them, go through the magazines, if they are having some magazines, if they are having some different document which need to preserve, check the format. The formats are very important. That is the thing which you need to design in your system. Now you can perform it in the beginning, go through the document. It is going to help you in maintaining reports. Yes, your system will be generating some reports, and they have to be in the same manner or in the same format. The last technique which we are going to study under fact finding techniques is on site observation, or you can say observation. Again, a very, very important and beneficial kind of a technique, where you need to have a strong observation. If you're visiting your client, these techniques go hand in hand. If you're visiting, you have decided for an interview, you are kind of going to visit your client's place. If it is going to be the client's place, go for record review and observe how the working is going on. If it is a factory kind of a thing, check from where the raw materials are coming, check how they are storing those raw material. If raw materials are maybe coming from transportation, are there some checkpoints or maybe some books, registers involved and kept aside? Go through them. See the processing unit, how the raw materials are getting processed. If there is a packaging unit involved, check how the packaging unit is working. Go on and observe every single thing. These things are going to help you a lot in your development. So the picture here, you can see the person is having the department in his head. There are some 2-3 people working, so he's observing that. He's again observing some piles of files as well. So these are the heap of files which he is observing, and he is also keeping in mind how the people might be working. So on site observation, again system analyst is going to observe the flow of documentation, how the flow of documentation here is. He is going to observe the working of organization, how the organization is working. If there are some 4-5 departments involved, how they are managing these departments. You need to go and observe every single thing. This is the part, or this is the time where you actually get some 4-5 points in your head. And also, we don't need to completely stick to what customers want. Like, in a way, let me explain you it in detail. Say for example, it is a billing system for a manufacturing factory kind of a thing, and right now they are just expecting a billing system from you. But as a good developer, as a good person of imagination, you can initiate things. Like, you can ask them that you can make a separate module in this very system only, where you can calculate salaries of your employee. You can create a small part in this billing system only, which can further help us to develop an application, maybe an Android app, from where a person can remotely place an order and you can deliver it. So you can keep a part of delivery if it is present. You can add these modules. So the sign of a good developer is go observe how big the organization is, how the departments are getting in sync, how they are working together, which part is proceeding further, like for example raw materials coming in, raw materials getting pre-processed, raw materials getting processed, packaging department, and then the outlet. So the small factory, this is the way it works. So go observe, ask them, do you need to add such things in your system right now, because it is possible. So if you are good at convincing your client, you can get the work done. So observation is very important. Again, observe the flow of work. So these were the four very simple yet effective techniques of fact finding, which even you can follow in your small or big software development project as well. Thank you.